Hello friends, for today we will taking up another important topic, and that is foreign trade policy. Foreign trade policy is also known as the EXIM policy, export import policy, or you can say that this particular policy is made for international business. Foreign trade policy. Trade means trading, doing business. We are into the business. We as the custom brokers are doing business in our country for assistance to the customs and providing the consultancy services to the importers and exporters. However, government itself is into the trade. They are also sending certain goods and bringing in certain goods. They are also into import and export. While the government is buying certain goods from outside of India, or any of the importers is buying the goods from outside, they require foreign exchange, foreign currency for buying those goods, either in US dollars or in the currency of the country of exporting country. So, from time to time, the foreign trade policy or the EXIM policy is drafted by the government for allowing certain exports, for encouraging the exports, or for controlling the trade. The most common problem that is faced by the government is the trade deficit. Sometimes we notice that the import from a certain country is very high and we are losing foreign exchange on it, and the export to that country is comparatively low, so the trade deficit occurs. In some scenarios where the export to a particular country is very high while the import from that country is low, in that scenario that is very beneficial for us because we are earning foreign exchange on that, but it is a loss to that particular country that are importing from us. So trade deficit occurs in that particular country. There are many countries, for example, but they are quite debatable that the trade deficit occurs in our country in respect to those countries from where the import is very high. So what is the emphasis of the government? Emphasis of the government is that the export should increase. More export, there will be more forex. Hence, the government gives the facility to encourage and increase the export, and for that the drawback is given, and also certain export promotion schemes are being formed, like export oriented unit, export promotion capital goods, advance authorization, DFIA, and several others schemes are there which can be grouped under duty remission and duty exemption schemes. So we will be taking up these topics in the later videos. For the purposes of today's class, we have the foreign trade policy into picture. Now we will be focusing on that. So what are the objectives of our EXIM policy? It should be encouragement of export, it should be the encouragement of export. The export more increases and the foreign trade must accelerate. Acceleration of foreign trade also implies the increase of export, because if the more and more import is taking place, then it will lead to the trade deficit and the loss of the foreign exchange. Hence, the policies and procedures are formed to regulate this. If we are importing as much as we are exporting, then we are at balance and there is no problem at all. Now, every procedure is worked out as per the act or the law that has been passed by the parliament. So foreign trade policy comes under foreign trade development and regulation act 1992. For short, it is known as FTDNA 1992. This is the act that governs the foreign trade policy. Like the Custom Act 1962 governs the levy and collection of duties, similarly, Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act 1992 governs the foreign trade policy. Currently, foreign trade policy or the EXIM policy that is working is 2015 and 20. For every 5 years, these foreign trade policies are formed and they remain in picture. This policy came in 2017 and this ensured that the transitional policies will remain effective, those policies which were formed prior to this foreign trade policy. And since the corona came and due to the COVID-19 last year in March 22nd the lockdown was imposed, so the new foreign trade policy could not come into picture, which generally comes on the 1st April. And since the foreign trade policies are effective till 31st March, so they got an extension of 1 year and we anticipate new foreign trade policy to come soon. So the foreign trade policy are formed under section 5 of Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act, Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act 1992. So, coming to the history of this particular act, which is very important for the Viva as well as for the theoretical portion in the exam. Everyone know that we got the freedom in 1947. In 1962, Customs Act was enacted. While the Customs Act was enacted, we knew that on the import we have to levy the tax, and for the export simultaneously we have to increase the export, or for certain items export duties are there. Why the export duties are there? Export duties are mainly predominant in those countries which are earning out of export, like the organization of OPEC countries are there, organization of petroleum exporting countries. They are earning out of petrol exports, and there are certain countries like Malaysia and other countries which are exporting the edible oil, so they are earning from there. The export duties are predominant over there. Generally, we take the example of OPEC countries, where are these Islamic countries which are exporting the petrol, so they are earning from the export. In India, if we consider the scenario of coffee and tea, they have a specific tariff on export duties. However, when the Custom Act was enacted, then a review committee in 1962 was formed to evaluate the foreign trade, that how we must regulate this foreign trade. So in 1985, then Commerce Minister Mr. V.P. Singh announced that we shall be having the foreign trade policy. Initially it was for only 3 years, but the major emphasis was accelerating of the economy, improving the competitiveness, accelerate economy, improve the competitiveness of the exporters, so that they come at par with the international players in the market, and to give the quality products to the consumers. These quality products to the consumers come by two routes. One is the import, another is by encouragement of export. Now, India is not totally a self-reliant country. We have to become a self-reliant country. Today we are facing a very high trade deficit because we are importing the products from another country. That is quite debatable. I'm not taking the name, but we are importing very heavily from that particular country in spite of having the cross-border disputes. But this situation cannot be avoided, because high quality, where the quality, responsiveness and reliability is concerned, if we are getting the products from even those countries from where we are facing the our border dispute, this cannot be avoided. The answer is China. We are importing very heavily from China and the trade deficit is occurring because China is exporting to all over the world. Their export to India is also very limited. However, we gave them a lesson on the border dispute and we won because they also came to understand that India is a big market for their products. But our question is not that. Our question is being self-reliant. We have to become self-reliant and hence boosting to the Make in India has to be there, boost to the Made in India has to be there. So the foreign trade policy is drafted so that this particular kind of scenarios should be regulated. So how do we get the quality products in the import? If suppose the product that is being sold in India in the domestic market to the consumers do not have that particular quality that is being offered by the imported products, so the imported products will win the competition and hence the consumers in India will get the quality products. However, if the export is being boosted and the exporters have to become competitive with the international players in the market, so slowly their quality will improve and their improved quality products in the domestic market will be able to win. So by giving impetus and encouragement to the export, we get quality products, and if we allow the imported products to be sold in the market, then the consumer are getting the quality products. So in 1985, when the Commerce Ministry decided to implement the foreign trade policy, it was for the 3 years and they have certain objectives in mind which were quite successful. Since they got the success, so they decided to enact it as a law, as an act, and hence in 1992 Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act was enacted and hence it is known as Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act 1992. However, an important thing is that when we are dealing with the foreign trade, we are getting forex, foreign exchange, and hence the foreign exchange management has to be done. Hence in 1999 we got Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA 1999. So having a brief review of all these things, if we reconcile as the legal provisions of the foreign trade policy, what we get? This is very important both from the written theoretical point of view and for the viva, the oral interview part. Under the legal provisions of the foreign trade policy, we have three things to account for. First is the Customs Act 1962. Another is Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act 1992 and FEMA 1999. Regulatory body for FEMA is RBI. Through its circulars, it defines several things like what has to be the time for the BRC and the sale proceeds to come. For the Foreign Trade Development Regulation Act, the regulatory body is DGFT, Directorate General of Foreign Trade, and for the Customs Act 1962, it is the CBIC, Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. For the this is RBI. Now this particular chart must be very well known to you because this is very relevant with the Customs Act and the CBLR exam. So friends, we will be taking up more details in the next video. Thank you.